Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today for our 30 on Thursday, SharePoint to Sitecore, Migrate or Integrate. If this is your first time joining us, our 30 on Thursday webinar series is a 30-minute bi-weekly series where we talk all things enterprise content management. Our next webinar will be creating a seamless employee onboarding experience, and that will be on February 18th. You can register for that webinar and see our full schedule at ecm.protiviti.com/webinars. We are doing live tweeting today during the presentations. Tweet us your questions and feedback during the webinar at Protiviti ECM and make sure to use the hashtag 30TSitecore. We do have a couple SharePoint 2016 roundtables coming up in cities near you. We have them in Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, Northern Virginia, and Minneapolis. You can learn more about these events or register for these events on our website ecm.protiviti.com. Today's session is being recorded. You can view the recording of this session and all of our past sessions on our website as well. Please use the question window during the presentation. We will get to the questions after Eduardo's presentation. You can also tweet us your questions again using the hashtag 30TSitecore. Again, the topic today is SharePoint to Sitecore, Migrate or Integrate. Our presenter is Eduardo Morais, Sitecore MVP here at Protiviti, and I am Julia Marple, and I will be moderating today's session. So let's get started. Eduardo, I'm going to make you presenter.
Good. Thank you. So let me know if you see my screen here, Julia.
Yep, I see the presentation. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. So, hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Hope everyone is having a good week so far. Today we'll discuss on some aspects involving what are the considerations that we need to make when we are evaluating the use of Sitecore for public-facing websites on cases where you may already have SharePoint in-house. So this is definitely not a scenario that is uncommon. SharePoint has been around since the beginning of this millennium, and many companies rely on it and other products of the Microsoft stack for their daily operations around enterprise content. At that time, around the year 2000, SharePoint was created by Microsoft as a solution to compete mainly against other legacy work collaboration systems that existed, things like IBM Lots Notes, etc. at that time, for example. And SharePoint was mainly designed to work mainly on enterprise side, so enterprise content, document management, as a collaboration platform. These tasks, they are normally done within the boundaries of a company's firewall. The company's intranet. However, of course, it also came with a few features for editing web content. In I guess its first or initial release, it also had front page and other features like that. And nothing stopped people to start making use of it to also create and manage the content for public-facing websites. Although, of course, we know this is not exactly what SharePoint was and is still designed for. SharePoint is definitely a great tool for collaboration, especially around the Microsoft Office suite and in an intranet or extranet environment. So then comes Sitecore. Sitecore has also been around since the beginning of last decade. However, the initial focus was more really in the other side of the firewall with web content management for public-facing websites. Nowadays, Sitecore is not just a web content management anymore, you can say, but actually a very complete digital marketing platform or experience platform, as it's called by the guys at Sitecore. And Sitecore is one of the global leaders in customer experience management. being positioned, if you guys look at the Gartner's Magic Quadrant, it is positioned as one of the top leaders on that particular report. So, if you look at some key points when comparing the two platforms, we can say that the major benefits or difference here of using one or another solution, SharePoint or Sitecore. Starting maybe with SharePoint here, we can say that SharePoint has most of of the functionalities. They are have their focus on document management, collaboration, and other features. They are most aligned with the daily internal operations of a corporation. Sitecore, on the other hand, is a platform with its eyes on the external world. We can say that Sitecore, because of its started as a pure content management platform, it makes it easier to handle the reuse of content and the reuse of presentation components. It actually does a better job than SharePoint on that end, on what refers to separating content from its presentation, providing total freedom in terms of how you may design a web page and user experiencing and branding for a website. And it's also easier on Sitecore to handle globalization and localization of contents for websites that are multilingual or available in different countries. They also share some similarities. So both solutions are Windows-based, of course. They have their base code and their API made available through ASP.NET code. They both mainly use SQL Server as a backend database, although Sitecore also uses XDB, specifically when it comes by default with MongoDB as the database for its analytics data. But the content itself in Sitecore and Sitecore settings, they are by default within SQL Server. They both run as IIS web applications, using a specific application pools for that. They have single sign-on and secured settings that can be integrated with Active Directory. Sitecore, like Microsoft as a corporation, they also offer Sitecore on-prem or cloud-based offerings. On this end, we all know that Microsoft has been pushing a lot. They put a lot of effort and focus on its cloud offerings with Office 365. And however, it is interesting also to note that last year, actually, Microsoft, they had dropped the ability to create public-facing websites directly from SharePoint Online on Office 365. Microsoft, for that, has actually recommended customers to look for alternative hosting and third-party vendors for web content management and solutions like Sitecore, for example, as an alternative. So, when to use one or another solution? When to use SharePoint? SharePoint will always be our solution of choice, our recommended solution for intranet portals, where document management and collaboration is required. When it comes to public-facing websites, it can also be an option, depending on what are the requirements for that site and also how much investment was already made in SharePoint in your company. So you have resources that already use it to build sites in SharePoint. And SharePoint actually has way more functionality than just content management. And most of this functionality, as we said, it's more applicable to an intranet like document management and collaboration. Therefore, if you're not going to use all of that, and if you're just using SharePoint to manage a public-facing site, it is like having a big bus just to go to the supermarket to do your groceries. So it's way more than what you would need. So, but however, of course, SharePoint still makes sense for managing public-facing sites if you have already made that investment in SharePoint and you are using SharePoint for its core functionalities in your company. So it's there, you're using for your intranet, your team is already used to it, and you have public sites that they do not require any specific features around digital marketing that could be made achieved with out-of-the-box with Sitecore, so you can have that running on top of SharePoint. However, nowadays, most of the sites, if not all, they are actually about digital marketing. They exist to help a company to drive more business. Public-facing websites, they are a channel where you can get more customers to know about your brand, to listen to your message, and to purchase your services or products through your site as well. And more, the user experience, the customer experience in your site, it needs to be tailored according to your visitor. It needs to be adapted and adjusted according to the behavior of your visitor. They need, the website, it actually needs to help you to drive business. They can't afford just to be just static anymore. So their content needs to be adapted and adjusted according to your client's profile, preferences, their browsing history, and their history of your company. Establish a real conversation with your site visitors. And this is where actually Sitecore would be more of a recommended tool. So when to use Sitecore? Sitecore is actually on the flip side here in the terms that it is not normally the recommended tool for your intranet, unless, of course, your intranet is just informational, like an internal website created mainly for communication purposes. And even in that case, it will also only make sense if you have already invested in Sitecore for what it's better tailored for your public-facing websites using digital marketing, using all the customer experience features it has. That is where Sitecore is definitely and always will be the recommended tool, not just because of, it is powerful, it's used to use for content management, but mainly on the ability to make use of the content on functionalities such as personalization, proceed with A/B or multivariate tests, campaign management, email marketing. It has embedded analytics reports and many other features actually. So sites that require an effort on branding that's medial to full, like it's a full branding of your site. So they're not just about like changing the colors of schema or predefined components, but actually being able to create and deliver a full design experience for a website. So that's where Sitecore is the recommended solution. And when to use both. There are also scenarios where it makes sense to use both. This is where you have maybe SharePoint managing your intranet for your daily internal work of documents, collaboration, etc. And Sitecore managing your public-facing website, helping your company to drive more results, more business value out of your site. But there's always, of course, the case where you may have content that overlaps both, so content that is common on both ends that you may want to integrate to avoid content duplication. So let's start talking about how integration would work on this case. This side here. For content that is hosted in SharePoint, and you may have the requirement to keep it there because this is where your team is maintaining, and that content is also being used on your intranet collections and intranet sites. You can have that content still in SharePoint and integrated in Sitecore using the SharePoint Connect 2.1 for Sitecore module. This is a module that is provided by Sitecore, made by Sitecore, and it enables 3 different ways of accessing, getting access to SharePoint content inside a Sitecore instance. Using this module, therefore it is possible to keep your content in SharePoint and have that content surfaced in your Sitecore website. It also provides a 2-way connection, meaning that you can actually update the content in Sitecore for the items that are integrated through that module, and they will be automatically synchronized back to your SharePoint collection, updated this content in SharePoint as well. The integration module provided by Sitecore provides support for both types of SharePoint environments. On-premises, meaning the SharePoint servers that are hosted on your own environment, and also on SharePoint Online on Office 365. For the on-prem environments, it supports Windows authentications and claims-based authentication. And as I said, it provides 3 different integration levels: page level, item level, and API level integration. I will explain the page level. This is probably the simplest one of them. So I'll just show some screenshots of that. But the item level integration and show also a little bit of an API level integration running. So you guys actually can see how that works in terms of integration inside Sitecore. So the page level integration, what is that? This is basically a set of components that are available once you have the module installed on your Sitecore instance. And these components or Sitecore sublayouts, they can be added to Sitecore page. So you can add a SharePoint list to a page, a SharePoint search component to a page, announcements, and tasks. So they don't provide you much freedom in terms of customization, but they are available out of the box, so they are easier to plug and play. Once you have the module configured, you can drop this component in a page, and then you define what is the source and all the necessary configuration to actually get access to your SharePoint instance, and they will surface that content using the component. So this is an example here of a component for displaying a list of shared documents in a Sitecore page, and this is pretty much how it looks like. And also in this screenshot here, a component should drop a SharePoint search on a Sitecore page. So it provides you a list of sites to search, the lists that inside the sites that you want to search, and then provides you the search results. So this is basically that. So again, there's not really a lot of freedom here to customize these components, and that's why the item level integration is really interesting here. So the item level integration, different from the components, it actually brings the content inside the Sitecore interface. The components, they will just be like on the presentation layer. But the item level integration, it's actually on the content layer. So once you have item level in place here, you have content from SharePoint lists inside Sitecore, meaning that you can add to that content using the Sitecore interface, or you can even apply Sitecore workflows, presentation, etc., everything on top of that as if they were Sitecore items, normal Sitecore content, using Sitecore. So let me actually switch to my demo environment here, and let's take a look on that. Just 1 second, please. Okay. Here. Okay. So here I have in my virtual machine a SharePoint instance running. In this SharePoint instance, I have a few site collections. I created a products catalog here, and also a public site to use the products catalog. But what I'm really interested here is my products catalog. So in this products catalog, I have a few lists. I have documents, I have products. So if I go to products, I created just a few products there for the sake of this demo, so I can actually show you how it works, and maybe guys may have questions on that as well. So we have 3 products here. They are in this SharePoint list inside my product site. So now I'll go to Sitecore. I'll log into Sitecore, and if you're not familiar with Sitecore, this is the login page, and after the login page, it will basically present the Sitecore interface here. So give me just 1 second for Sitecore to log in. sorry if it's kind of slow because this is a virtual machine running on top of my, my local laptop here. Okay, so this is the Sitecore interface once you're logged. So you have many different applications here that you can use to manage the content and work with the content in Sitecore. You have applications for analytics, you have applications for marketing, for campaigns, for optimization. So what we want to go now is content editor, which is the application to really manage your content in Sitecore. Once you have the content editor load, you have here what is the Sitecore content tree. So all Sitecore content is here. You have your home page item, and then under that home page you may have your many pages for your website that is managed in this instance. And you also will notice here that we have SharePoint folders. The reason we have the SharePoint folders here is because I have already installed the SharePoint Connect 2.1 module for Sitecore. So it's installed here, and by default provides like some example SharePoint lists. So in order to get content from one of those SharePoint lists, I just need to click on my SharePoint lists here and click on the SharePoint integration button. Once I click this button, it will ask me what is the SharePoint URL, and then I can try to get that using my default user here, the user that I'm currently logged using the account, the credentials, or you can maybe switch to a different user. So you just click manual and you change here the credentials and enter a password. So pretty much what we need to do is to get the site URL for our collection. In my case, I want products. I'll go back to Sitecore. I'll paste that URL and I'll hit next. And you would start to communicate with SharePoint. So this may take a few minutes, so I have done this already here. So once the wizard is over, what it does, it provides you with the list of products that is coming from SharePoint. So this is a list that I have actually using the wizard. It retrieved all this content from SharePoint. So you see here is SharePoint item. It has an ID, so I can go to the item and here to bring all the SharePoint fields to my list. So you have the link title, you have the price, and you have all the other properties that are coming from that SharePoint list. So this is really interesting and easy to use because now I can use this content here inside Sitecore to display this content on my website, on my page here. I can actually edit this content and save, and it will sync back to SharePoint on a scheduled specific time. I have my configuration here done, configured for synchronization every hour, but you may want to change that according to your requirements there. Okay, so let me switch back to the presentation here because we are kind of running a little bit late on time. So what are the benefits of using this integration? The wizard makes it really easy to get the lists displayed. The lists are there in the content tree in Sitecore, so you can manage the content there, or in the media library in Sitecore. You can set this expiration interval or schedule interval for blog content, so you can optimize performance. So maybe you don't want that if you have like thousands of items, you don't want that maybe running every few minutes, but maybe every few hours or at least once a day. So it depends on the requirements again. And you can apply Sitecore functionality to this list. You can apply workflows, you can use it to do personalization of content for your customers and everything else that Sitecore has. For the API, you will use the API on more advanced scenarios like integration where it's not just getting the content from SharePoint, but you may want to do some transformation or any other business logic with that content before it's actually surfaced to Sitecore from SharePoint. So again, if I go back to my virtual machine, I actually, sorry, let me just show you one more thing here. I actually put there, drop it there some content, some code using the API, and the API is like a developer's dream. It has all the different namespace that developers like. This is really technical, sorry about that. But anyways, it basically means that it has a complete API that allows Sitecore to talk directly to SharePoint, and you can get content from SharePoint using this API as well, using .NET code inside Sitecore. So I applied that particular piece of code here to my home item just to list what are the sites, to list what are the collections. So if I preview my home item, it runs that API, and this is basically the result of the code that I put there. So it's connected to my product site. Connection was successful. I'm listing everything from there, all the products lists, and all the items from the products list. Sorry, all the views of the products list and all the items from the products list. And the API really works greatly here, and developers will definitely love it to make integration and also migration possible. So the benefits of the API, it's content in real time. It's going directly to SharePoint, getting content from there. Of course, you can also cache that content, so it's not always just hitting your server. Provides more flexibility on what you really want to do for business logic and presentation, and it's really helpful for automated content migration. For migration, so we have internet content from a website that's in SharePoint that we want to bring to Sitecore. So there are a few things that you need to take in consideration before doing that. So the first thing to consider is the information architecture. So I recommend do a content inventory of existing SharePoint. Use like an Excel template and provide a list of your existing page that you want to migrate. Then you are going to have a new sitemap for your new site. So you can then compare both and map what is going from your source in SharePoint to where it should go in Sitecore. Is it a new sitemap, or is it just the same sitemap as you had in your previous SharePoint public-facing website? So proceeding with this map of the information architecture would be one of the first things to do. And then you also need to pay attention to the media assets. Are you going to change the organization and structure of your media assets? By media assets, I mean here like all the images and videos and everything that's being used on your public-facing site in your page. So if you want to just preserve the same organization, it's really easy to do a mass upload. You just need to zip everything in a zip file and upload to Sitecore, and it will create the structure for you. Then you need to think about the fact that internal URLs, they will change because they will not be the same in Sitecore. They will have a different URL pattern, different structure. So you need to make sure that you have all your content mapped properly to be able to remap all the internal links. One suggestion here is actually to create a skeleton site first, because this way you have all the URLs defined in Sitecore for all the pages, and that makes it easier for the content migration. And whether to be automated or manual migration, automated is always preferable, but of course you need to consider how much time it will be required to put together scripts for automation using the API, etc., and the timeline for each option. Rule of thumb here, based on my experience, doing manual migration, each resource, each person working on that will be around 20-30 pages a day for content migration. So they will start slowly, like a little bit less than 20, and they will pick it up and to get to 30 pages a day. To justify like automated migration, it's normally above 1,000 pages. Then you have something that actually makes sense in terms of budget mainly. To create and prepare scripts and automate your migration. But of course, it depends on the complexity of each scenario, etc. So, final thoughts. If I could provide some recommendations from this presentation here, it's basically keep your intranet sites in SharePoint, migrate your public-facing websites to Sitecore, and you can use the API to automate the migration. The API is great, and it's not really difficult for developers to figure out, and you can have your automation migrated if it makes sense for you. And you can still surface content that you want to keep in SharePoint to your Sitecore site using the item level integration. That's it, Julia.
Okay, great. We do have a couple of questions. The first question, really quick, is can SharePoint and Sitecore run on the same server, and what is recommended?
They can run on the same server, but they should not run on the same server, of course. For performance reasons, they should have each one its own server, as both are .NET. It would be still possible to make that happen, but definitely not the recommended scenario.
Okay, great. And using the item level integration, what happens when the same content is updated on both ends at the same time?
Okay. What happens is that I actually did a test on that because I was also curious about it, is that it will take Sitecore as the one that has the preference for the content update. So it will update SharePoint based on the updates you have done on Sitecore.
Okay, great. And that is all the questions we have today. Thank you, Eduardo, for the great presentation and lots of great information. Thank you all for attending today. We will see you in 2 weeks on February 18th. And again, the recording of today's presentation will be on our website by the end of the day. So, thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you.